Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mutual Knowledge Systems. This is Gauthier, your host, and today my guest is Philipp Weber. Hello, Philip. I hope I didn't butcher your name or pronounce it too
You
strangely.
pronounce it perfectly, Gauthier. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for having
Nice to
me.
meet you, Philip. So, would you introduce yourself for our followers, please?
Yeah, sure. Hey. Yeah, as you said, my name is Philipp Weber. I'm from Germany. I'm an engineer by studies, and I'm currently working for a machinery company, especially specialized in the IoT business and developing new products in the IoT space. And I'm also very much during my doctoral, I focused on the blockchain and the business opportunities there and focused on how to derive business opportunities and build them into traditional companies and how they can make use of it and how to identify use cases and stuff like this.
Alrighty. So, first question that I like asking, everyone. How did you
Mhm.
get into the blockchain industry? What was your first contact with this sector? What happened?
Yeah. So my first contact was actually so my background was way back in the day, like 10 years ago, a little bit more even, 2009 to 2011. I worked in a bank. Um, so I had a little bit of an investment background, being interested in the stock market, traditional finance, and everything. Then pivoted into engineering because I was more like a tech guy, and I saw this and I realized this during working in the bank. But I had this investment background, and I heard about Bitcoin maybe in like 2015, 2016. To be honest, it didn't spark me immediately. I just heard about it. Oh, there's some new technology. There's a coin that you can somehow use online. But I didn't went into the rabbit hole too deep, to be honest. But then in 2017, the token craziness, the ERC20 token craziness in the Ethereum ecosystem happened, and of course, like everybody heard about it, and I was again very curious about it, but I was also a little bit skeptical as to how sustainable this is, seeing all those parabolic 1,000 axes with stuff out of thin air. But then in 2018, I really went down the rabbit hole, read stuff like the Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean, and then I really understood what Bitcoin is actually all about, for example. Um, and especially with the banking background, I really understood what the implications for the banking system and the fiat system, etc., could be eventually if enough people decide on using the system. But at the same time, working in the industry, I saw the potential of the underlying technology of blockchain itself, because it's not only finance, it's not only the transactions and freeing people from the fiat monetary system, but also help creating commercial value for companies. Um, Especially, I worked in a machinery company and
You know what? Sorry?
in a machinery
Machinery.
company,
Okay, yeah.
yeah. And there's just lots of friction along the whole supply chain. And yeah, that's how I got into the space. First Bitcoin, understanding like the potential about it, and then of course bought some Bitcoin, made some losses, got back in later again, and then also very early on like other stuff like especially Ethereum, where you could just build all these different use cases for other applications, and like in parentheses real world or like for the physical world, to yeah to get use cases to life and create new business.
Wonderful. All right. And so, what is it that you do now?
Yeah, I just finished my PhD scholarship
Mm-hmm.
in September. It was like a 3 years scholarship in Dortmund at the Graduate School of Logistics, and it has close ties to, I don't know if you heard about it, the Fraunhofer Institute in Germany. It's like the biggest research facility in Germany, also of state finance, but also finance from the industry. And I think it was in 2020 they started this initiative or this institute, the European Blockchain Institute, and that's where I didn't actively got involved in directly, because I already started in 2019 with a different topic, the different research field, but I had close ties to some research peers who started off the thing in blockchain, and they are especially in the supply chain area. So I got really interested in the use cases around the supply chain area and how to create value-adding networks and systems in the industry. Because I was at the same time working as an IoT product manager for a machinery company in the food and beverage industry. And I just saw the opportunity bringing different companies together where they can just trust the data and where you can then create new business models and digital and data-driven services for those customers, because especially medium-sized companies were just pivoting or are still pivoting into the cloud and are now realizing the huge potential of data-driven business models for their customers. And blockchain is still a very novel thing for them because they just started implementing everything with the cloud, and many of them don't really have the IT talent in-house, so they are doing everything with third parties anyway. So they are quite happy to have the IT infrastructure in place right now, so they can start doing business. But that's also the opportunity that like the CEOs and the people in charge are understanding the opportunities that do lay in this space. And blockchain makes it even more valid, or gives even more opportunity than just over the centralized clouds.
All right. And for those people who are working in the field of supply chain, so food and beverage, but I can imagine also biotech when they sell medications, how do you what do you tell them when you tell them, okay, here's the added value of these decentralized systems compared to centralized ones? What can the blockchain bring them usually?
Yeah, maybe that's clear when we talk about like an example system. Let's say you have a company that produces laser cutting machines, and you have another company B that uses those laser cutting machines. And in the old days, company B would just buy the laser cutting machine from company A, usually in the ballpark of millions of dollars and huge investments. And then usually those machines get really, really old, and buying a new one is a huge decision. And now you have like new business models where you can go pay per use or pay as you go, where the company actually using the machine, cutting steel and stuff like this, metal sheets, can pay per centimeter, for example, the company who actually built the machine.
Oh, and because the data availability on the blockchain is better?
Exactly, and now you have and the different technologies converge. So now you do have the capability to connect the machines, but also now you have a trustless data layer where you can actually do business on, where the machinery company producing the laser machines can actually trust the data by the customers who are putting it on the blockchain in real time, how much they are using the machine actually. And that way they can do business without needing like trusting each other.
Okay. And how are those people usually receptive? How do they understand these arguments? Because one of the biggest tricks when you work in the blockchain industry is to make them understand your use case, whatever the use case is: finance, industry, supply chain. Are people receptive in this sector, for example?
Yeah, they usually are receptive, and they do understand the arguments. But what you often see still is that they are like, yeah, okay, I understand it, and it is important, and probably we will do it in the future. But for now, let's do it step by step. We just started with the cloud, and we just started to make baby steps in the direction of getting those data-driven services ready. And what I was just talking about was like the North Star business model, like equipment as a service, where the company doesn't actually sell the machine, but sort of leases it or keeps it in their books, and their customers are just paying per use. But this is at this point a North Star. There's a whole set of problems or hurdles associated with this, like liquidity issues, like if they don't sell the machine, they don't get in the millions of dollars immediately, but small amounts of money over time. and how do they finance this in the meantime, paying their employees, paying their costs, etc. So there's lots of stuff that that will have to be handled in the future. But I would say they are aware of the solutions, but it's still a little bit hard for them to act on this.
So for this business model, providers of that kind of service would also need another type of provider, like a new funding or credit system to sustain their company until the snowball effect brings in enough cash flow, right?
Yeah, exactly, and that's actually what you see. They are piloting. There are definitely companies piloting this and like leading the industry into that direction, where you have constellations where you get in, like, let's say, a big insurance company or a big bank which has the capital power to enable this system or to initialize it. So as you said, to get the snowball rolling. So usually you have like at least 3 participants in a system like this, where you have business partners A and B. Like B wants to have, for example, the machine of company A, and the third one, a financial mediatory or medium that enables like the risk side of it and the financing side of it. And sometimes you have even a fourth one handling all the IT stuff, for example. The connection to the cloud or to the blockchain, especially because you just don't have the knowledge about blockchain technology, like all the devs. The machine companies often just don't have this talent, and so they have to bring in another partner that handles all the IT infrastructure stuff associated with it.
Wonderful. And so, for you, what is the next challenge or the next set of challenges that the blockchain actors will have to face in the future? So not only the blockchain sector, of course, there are crypto winters and those kind of things, but the people who work in the blockchain industry need to make their tech more mainstream. They need to have other people who are not only fans of blockchain tech, but who are fans of their use cases. So what's next challenges for these guys? Like, the people who provide those services you talked about, for example.
Yeah. In general, I would say definitely increase user experience for a long time. I mean, even on a private level, if you wanted to use like some DeFi protocol or something, it takes you like hours to understand the process or like the different parts of the system. Even if you are for quite a while in the space, it's still sometimes a very tedious process to get everything started. So you need definitely an improved user experience. So nice front ends that just wonderfully work with the decentralized backends, for example, and also, like, for example, in the industry, you have. Now, I'm actually not too sure about it if you have this in the blockchain industry already. But in other sectors, you have low coding platforms or just more standards and where you have common ground, which systems you're using and interconnectability between the chains. So because in the end, you want to be able to work with any other business and don't want to set up a whole new IT infrastructure with every single business partner. So you need some type of common ground or interoperability between all those systems. And I think that just has to come into the industry, and the knowledge has to come into this industry, and make it accessible for those who are not able to program it or to do it themselves. For example, the medium-sized machinery company.
Yeah. You know, I'm kind of brushing my hands like Mr. Burns in The Simpsons, because you are exactly pitching the concept of our Glow language at Mutual Knowledge Systems, because we have a Glow language that aims at being cross-chain, that works that can be, adapted to many chains, because the compiler works on a specific chain, but the
Yeah.
syntax stays the same, and that's a low-code language because it does only smart contracts, and because of that, we have done it in order to be 10 times simpler as Solidity. So what you write in 100 lines of code on Solidity will take only 10 lines of code on in our language Glow, and this is exactly why we do that, because people with high business IQs usually don't have necessarily high programming skills, and as long as we don't have those people with high business intelligence in the mainstream market willing to step in the blockchain game, it's impossible to have them. And yeah, I love what you say about the UX, because this is really something complicated. We have so many people who are in the field who always struggle with understanding some new tech or some new kind of wallet. So if this is already complicated, it means that all the guys who are not trained in that field usually will not want to pay the price of learning.
Yeah.
So UX is something that people usually tell me a lot about as the challenges of the blockchain. So I'm going to ask you a question, but if this is too personal, intimate, feel free to not respond to me. But what is the worst UX you have seen?
The worst UX I've seen, usually of very new projects, of course, because they're just starting out, and you just have a CLI.
Obviously.
Yeah, so that's basically the worst, because you just have a CLI, you need to read the document, you have to have some basic coding knowledge is sometimes even needed, or that you're even actually, or at least that you're comfortable using a console and the CLI. So if there is no user interface at all, that's probably naturally like the worst. I don't want to call out specific projects, because I think many projects had this in the beginning.
Of course.
It's like a development process over time. Yeah.
For the followers who do not know what a CLI is, it means command line interface. So that's basically you have to type the instructions, and for people used to programming, this seems absurdly simple, but for other people, this is complicated. Actually, once I was working in a shared screen session with a developer, and the guy was using only command lines to talk to his PC, and I was working on a graphic interface of Linux, because I'm not a great developer. I just know basic stuff. And the guy was absolutely confident that this was the best interface. And when we were working together, he told me, yes, but no, it's very simple. There are just 8 lines of code you have to type in order to perform that command. And of course, we can publish a tutorial for people to do that. And after the tutorial, people will be absolutely flawless in that kind of, of action. And it's clear that afterwards they will be okay to use our payment system. And I thought to myself, yeah, maybe, but no, I'm pretty sure that it's if your grandmother cannot use it.
Yeah, that's exactly what you need. It's the intersection and the communication between the devs and people who really understand the market and the needs of the customers, because that's like really much like the view of a developer. It's like, yeah, it's easy. You can just type in these and that lines. It's more robust. It's easy. But the thing is, there's so much available out there and so many different products, and the customer is just not willing to learn even like 10 minutes, to put 10 minutes into it, to at least for something very basic, that is, or if you have like many different types of the same product, you have to lower the hurdle for the new customers as low as possible. And if you can go from I need to learn 8 lines of code to I need to make 1 click, then you do the 1 click.
There's a statistics that I read that it might be a bit old, so it might have changed slightly, but probably not too much. When you design a website, basically when you add a third step, a third click, you're losing roughly 30% of the customers, and every new step requires you to lose 30% of them. So that's kind of tricky. That's why Amazon has a buy in 1 click button, for example. But of course, that's something tricky, and people usually don't want to learn about it. And so yourself, what motivated you to go through that? Because you are in the field, so it means that you paid the price, the high price of learning. What did motivate you in this field? You say you were from the banking industry, but at the beginning, what was the first thing that made you think, hey, this has some great potential?
Actually, I was big in tech stocks as well. So my mindset is always around like new technology, growing industries, growing companies, or growing like especially like, and blockchain was like the growth was insane, and the potential is also insane. Like you can revolutionize so many different industries, like the whole cross-border payments. 2018, I was in Malaysia and I had to pay like tuition fees to the university in Malaysia. It was stressful as hell to send them money, and it was super expensive. And with the blockchain technology, for example, you can build like very easy, efficient, and basically free solutions for that. Also, the use cases that I saw in the industry and around the supply chain, but also like all sorts of things were just exploding everywhere, like NFTs, new tokens. So it was just like a very creative process, so to say, and like really it feels like a revolution in so many different areas. And that's something what I'm, as an engineer and tech guy, I'm very hyped about and interested in. And there's also a huge intersection with my time back from the banking and my investment background, that I of course like to be invested in various coins and tokens and Bitcoin. So you have like two aspects where you have like the potential for real new utility, and at the same time you have an opportunity to be an early investor in those ideas. And this is really something that excites me. Yeah.
Where do you live yourself?
I live in Dortmund in
Okay,
Germany.
so you are based in Germany. Okay, so
Yeah.
how's the cryptocurrency and blockchain markets in Germany? How are the laws compared to other people? I like asking that to many people because all of you guys are remote and all of you guys are scattered all around the world, so it's always a very useful information. How is it going in Germany?
So basically, it's a little bit treated like Forex, most of it.
Okay.
For the most part, yeah. So if you hold Bitcoin, for example, for a year, you can sell it. You can sell it tax free. If you do trading, like on a day-to-day basis or weekly basis, you have to pay like the usual tax you would have to pay if you have capital gains or from some other area as well.
Okay.
So that's that side. Other than that, do you mean like from a regulatory perspective?
Yes, also, yes, of course.
From an investment
Of course,
perspective?
not necessarily from a fiscal perspective, but also regulatory, because some countries, for example, are willing to cap the amount of cryptocurrencies you can buy as an individual. Some others are saying we should ban them entirely. Some others are saying, oh no, hell, you can pay your taxes with it. So since I do not live in Germany and since some of our followers do, I'd like to know more for the followers who would be interested in that.
Yeah, from the regulatory perspective, it's mainly like I think lots of stuff is decided on the EU basis, basically, especially with new stuff like the MiCA framework. So I think most of this will be decided on an EU level, and I'm actually a little bit concerned about the regulatory advances in Europe. They are, like in a worldwide comparison, in some ways the furthest, or have made many decisions already. It's not already in the bill, or it's not finalized, but lots of stuff in there that makes me think a little bit, or makes me a little bit hesitant about the future of it in Europe, because especially for self-sovereignty of or self-custody of stuff, where they are like, okay, you have to go through some type of KYC process, for example, to be able to for self-custody for Bitcoin. It's not really sure how they want to actually do this in the end, but they try to build in all kinds of hurdles on that end. But yeah, we will have to see how this plays out in the end. Currently, like just from a user's perspective, I'm just using normal exchanges like Binance, Coinbase, etc. zero problems with that. I'm more concerned about the future decisions of it, because like for how long is it now? For 2 years or so, they are trying to put in place more and more rules with the increasing market capitalization of the whole crypto market. So I think in recent years, it wasn't really like a big problem, but there might be some hurdles ahead in the future, and they're currently working on that. But I'm not really an expert in that field, so I don't really know how the rules on that end will look like in the future.
Of course.
Because for the industry, for example, it's mostly like private or permissioned blockchains. So you will probably often have like closed loops or closed systems over there. We will have to see how this affects, for example, decentralized finance, especially like I think a lot of stuff is intertwined with the US as well. And I was actually a bit worried when I'm seeing interviews with Sam Bankman-Fried, for example, currently probably all in talks with the FTX catastrophe.
Mm-hmm.
When he's saying stuff like you should probably UX like someone who gives access via a UI to a decentralized protocol would need a banking license, so that everyone who wants to access the decentralized protocol needs to go through a KYC protocol. That's a little bit like saying, okay, everybody who uses email now needs to do KYC beforehand, before using Google Mail or whatever.
Which is something some people want to implement, by the way.
Yeah.
Some people do want to implement the fact that you shouldn't be allowed to go on any social network and any mailing platform without giving out your passport so that everyone knows who you are, which is usually always a very thoughtful intent of protecting people from fake news and whatever, but which is also a vastly powerful control tool from the states, of course.
Yep. I mean, I know this whole topic is very controversial, and the opinions on that could not be further apart probably, but I totally stand on the privacy side of things. I think that the narrative of protecting people by getting rid of all controversies on social media and everything is just a false narrative. I just don't believe that for a second. I think it has way too much danger of control and losing all privacy. And if you then can, and if you think that a little bit further, when blockchain prevails and we have the financial systems running on it and everything is in principle transparent on the blockchain, and when you then cannot do anything in private anymore, then everything is just transparent to some central entity. Who are you messaging to? When are you messaging to this person? Where are you sending your funds? They can control where you can even spend your funds. So to me, this is just a dystopia, and so I'm very much in favor of privacy projects in general. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a privacy coin, like what I think what many people, and especially politicians and people outside of the industry, don't realize what's actually possible with cryptography. You can mathematically solve basically any problem and still give people the privacy and to share only the information they want to share with like zero knowledge proofs, for example. You can prove that you have a certain information or that you did pay the correct amount of tax without revealing everything. You can just give the information that it is 100% cryptographically proven correct without giving away all your private information. And I think there's a lot of education needed on the political landscape so that they realize what are really the different solutions possible and what's the best way for the populace.
Of course, because there could be a future, if we don't advocate this strongly, where a commerce, a business, a restaurant could be banned from the whole blockchain, or you could be banned from eating in some places, either because of your political opinions or your vaccination status or anything, saying, okay, but your payment system only applies here, so here on Google Maps you know where you have the right to go. And the tragedy of this also is that usually politicians understand they have the intent of protecting people. I don't really agree with it either. I stand with you on this one. mostly because over the past centuries, most of the death came because of governments and not because of private people. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's bad to
Power
protect people.
corrupts.
I'm saying it's bad to be protected by those people. And the thing is also most politicians with very, very positive intents usually do not want to take the minimal step of educating themselves on cryptography or anything. And I have one example for our followers for this. Maybe you know it, but it happened in France. There was a national commission about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, the fiscality of cryptocurrencies. And there was an old politician, like 60, 63 years old, you know, old-fashioned, not super old, but like close to retirement. And the guy was really, really seriously saying, okay, but who owns Bitcoin? I want to know who is the person behind it. Yeah, we don't know, but it's okay. It's not a company. It's a decentralized network. Yeah, right. Well, look at this. You are telling me that you know we cannot say who it is because we don't know who that person is. But when I look at bitcoin.fr, I did some research and I looked at bitcoin.fr and bitcoin.com and I saw that it is a company in Malta. So that means that Bitcoin is in Malta, and everyone, and you know, all the tech guys and all the Bitcoin educated people in the assembly were like hardly face palming themselves and you know, showing nonverbal signs of, oh gosh, this is going to take far longer than expected. And sadly, this happens quite a lot. So we could have this, and some people could even doom the future, not by malevolence, but by ignorance. And for you, what would be the ideal?
I totally agree on that.
Go on.
I just wanted to make a point for the ignorance as well. I don't necessarily. I mean, there are definitely like evil people in the world, and definitely like on all social levels and between the politicians as well. But I think that most bad decisions don't actually happen out of wanting to harm people, but out of ignorance. And usually the people with the most power often, I mean, it depends who is consulting them and everything, and if they are willing to listen to those people. But often, just as the example that you just gave, they just don't understand certain topics at all, but they are the people in the end making the decisions. So it's like probably educating those people as much as possible is probably like the most important task there is.
And that's the tragedy of expertise, because if somebody is too far ahead on the bell curve, nobody can understand that person, and so nobody can assess that this person is truly an expert here. So yeah, this can be complicated. And so the answer, of course, could be zero if you're, I'm going to ask you a question, but the answer could be, oh, absolutely none whatsoever. But what would be the optimal regulation for you, the optimal... do we even need regulation, or do you think this has to be let totally roaming free by the use of collective intelligence, or do you think there is a need for some regulation? Do you think there would be no need for regulation, but we cannot do it without regulation because politicians will not allow this, so there should be an optimum way to satisfy them? What would you imagine as a sustainable future, not the ideal one, but a sustainable one?
Yeah. That's actually quite difficult, of course, but my personal opinion is that you do have areas where you probably need some sort of regulation, because especially now you don't even know which industries blockchain technology and everything will change and revolutionize. What are the use cases? And some of those areas, healthcare, energy grids, all of this stuff is highly regulated anyway, or already. So new tech coming in will probably fall under some type of regulation, or the regulation will have to be changed in that regard. But when it comes, for example, to decentralized finance, or especially everywhere where you have like a decentralized solution that's based on code, and where everybody can perfectly know the rules and the rules are immutable, then I don't really get, like, for example, for Aave, if you have like a DeFi protocol, like there's regulation built in, like you know exactly what you get and who are the participants in the system. And for example, like stuff like fraud and scamming people is already illegal. So yeah, regulation is trying to stop this even from happening in the first place. But I think code and hard enforcements can do this actually way better than a set of rules that people just have to abide by, but could also choose not to. And when you have like hard-coded rules, you have to abide by the rules. So I think there's actually like a better path where you make like code is the law, like this phrase. I'm not sure if this works in every industry or in every field, but I do feel that the regulators of today are overstepping some lines and are trying to get more and more power into their facility or into their institute. Like as you can see in the US, for example, the whole debate. Which asset, like Bitcoin, is it a commodity or is it a security? Ethereum, is it a commodity? Like, and then you have those regulatory institutes fighting over it because they want to regulate it, and that's already a paradox to me. So yeah, I think there's in some areas they're definitely overstepping the line, and you do have areas where less regulatory involvement would lead to better solutions. But in the end, just as you can see with Bitcoin, you cannot stop like the decentralized system itself. Maybe you can regulate like the on and off ramps, like the exchanges, of course. I'm not really sure. It also depends like on the technological advancements, how you can access those in the future. If there will be ways that you can do it in a totally decentralized way. And the intersection of the traditional industries like banks, like what payment channels, for example, are observed by the regulators. It's a very complex topic, but in general, yeah, to make it short, I think less regulatory is better than more regulatory.
All right.
Yeah.
And do you think the banking system could eventually accept this? Because you come from the inside of such a system. Some banks are trying to have a little bit of blockchain-based services or investments, but most of the time they keep their centralized aspect. Do you think there's a future where it's possible to imagine, banks using the blockchain? Being more accountable because of that, maybe central banks, I don't know. Is it something that could be accepted with a tiny switch in mentalities, or does that seem absolutely fictional to you?
I think it is possible, but I'm at the same time not sure if some institutions or some banks will have a place in this world. Probably like that's the problem that they don't want to kill their own business. And at the same time, they have the pressure of innovating as well. Like as you can see with JP Morgan, for example, now utilizing Polygon or Matic to make some transactions. So they are taking steps in that direction. But how far this will go and where is the line of cutting profitabilities, or if they find new ways to make money, I think this will probably, like the decision will lay where the money goes, and where people go with their money. If they want to use the traditional services, or if a centralized entity like JP Morgan can just provide the better service to people, and if they have good products, then of course, sure, they will still have a place in the world and people will use their services. But if there's just a better alternative, yeah.
Okay. So do you think this is the same for governments? Like some governments are reluctant to using the blockchain, but still, because this is interesting and because this is useful, okay, let's use it anyway. Like South Korea using the blockchain to store the ID cards of their citizens. in a decentralized way, or Switzerland allowing people to pay in cryptos, El Salvador allowing Bitcoin as a legal currency. Is it something that you think they do reluctantly, or do you think some states do not agree with each other on this matter?
I think definitely states do not agree on this, especially if you have like, I mean, states don't agree on lots of political topics and issues, obviously. And I think that you have to differentiate between the blockchain technology itself and what it can provide, because you can build all sorts of solutions on there, and cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, for example. And I think it'll be a long way for many countries to accept Bitcoin as legal tender, as El Salvador did, for example. I think many countries are very reluctant to do this, to say it carefully. But I think they are willing to implement blockchain solutions because they see the benefits of the use cases and the benefits of it as well. For example, the European Blockchain Institute is financed by state money. So they do want to see development and research there, and just talking about CBDCs, for example. It could, and that's like the pathway. It can either be good for the people, or if you go the wrong route, it could lead to the dystopian world where they use like the transparent blockchain to censor you, to survey for surveillance reasons and stuff like this. So I think they will definitely use blockchain technology, but the question remains. In what direction and for what use cases specifically?
All right. Thanks a lot for all these great insights, Philipp. So, everyone, this was Philipp Weber. You can check, of course, his profile in the description of the video. Please like, share, subscribe, follow him, follow us, follow our newsletter. Thank you so much, Philipp. Any last word?
Thank you so much, Gauthier. Yeah, as you said, probably best follow me is on Twitter, Philipp Weber _, and yeah, there you see the rest of me.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much.